Hello, race fans, and welcome to Disc Golf Daily. It is Wednesday, May 1st. Thank you for rating the podcast and sharing it with friends. It does mean a lot to us. If you have not rated the podcast yet, please go do it now. Yes, before you finish listening to this, period. And if you email me the rating you gave us, I will be your friend on MySpace. Our email is discgolfdaily@aol.com. Yes, we just mentioned AOL and MySpace in the same sentence. Clearly, not a ton of news, but wait. We are the podcast that gets you caught up with disc golf news and growth in about 10 minutes. Wednesday is PDGA Growth Day, but first, the news. So I heard a few things on the interwebs that were talked about regarding the Champions Cup. Number one, it was a tough track. Number two, there were tough conditions. Number three, small crowds. I want to give a couple of thoughts on all of these things real quick. First up, a tough track. There were some holes that had 20, 30-minute backups. There were some holes that had 20 or 30-minute backups. Nate Sexton said about hole 12 or 14 at one point, that is a tough hole to play and to spectate. It was even tough, and I'm sitting in the booth. I can't imagine how hard it is for the cameras and the guys running the show. Not only is there very limited disc golf being played because 3 or 4 groups are on one hole, but most of the disc golf being played is not compelling due to the plinko going on through the woods. If someone cards a birdie 3 and 3 people card bogey 5s, I really only care about 3 of those 18 shots. Maybe 6 if we count the drives of the other 3 that got the bogeys. That's 1/3 of the shots that are compelling and that I want to watch. It is possible to have a hole be good for competition, but not a good hole for the Pro Tour, not a good hole for spectators. We will discuss this in more detail on our Friday conversation when we talk about disc golf's insecurity over par. 2. Tough conditions. There was a tough call whether or not they should play the 4th round, especially on the men's side. I personally think the Pro Tour made the right call to get the full 4 rounds in for MPO and FPO by playing a very long day on both Friday and Saturday. Even if you're just waiting around, you have to be ready to go, so Friday was a hard day for the players as well. I also can understand and appreciate the perspective that it made for a miserable couple of days for the players and staff, and probably the spectators, and having a 3-round MPO tournament would have been fine. Both are understandable positions, and I would not fault either decision had it been made. What I would like to see, and Brian touched this on our Monday recap, is the additional option of playing on Monday. We are at the point where the final round can be played on Monday, especially at a major or a 4-day Pro Tour event, where the final round is only played by those that are cashing. The rule that limits this should be revised, it's a PDGA rule, so that the powers that be can have that third option. Lastly, there should be guidelines put in place based on the hours of sunlight, the time of the delay, the condition of the course, and how many players have played the round and or how far into the round the first card is. Simply input all of these variables and an algorithm could pretty easily kick out a recommended course of action. The event organizer with the PDGA and or Pro Tour would be able to look at this data, follow a protocol for making a decision. Additionally, the players, fans, and staff would all understand why the decision is made, and if there's any second guessing, it would result in a review of the algorithm, not the call made by the event as to whether to play through it, shorten the event, or push back a day. Number 3, small crowds. The number of people at the final hole was noticeably small. I was not on the ground. If I was, I would have been there to cheer on Andrew Presnell, one of my favorites on the tour. I do not know if people bought tickets and then decided to not go due to weather. All I do know is that spectators on site should be a priority for the Pro Tour and the PDGA at their majors. At the MVP Open by OTB, we are looking at this and we'll be working to make sure that the value that is offered is well above the cost of the tickets. Every event organizer should take this into consideration. I personally agree with the calls that it is better to have more people in the stands and less money in the event fund than vice versa. Bring people to the event, give them lots to do in addition to watching the greatest disc golfers on the planet, and make it an experience they do not want to miss. Our number 2 news story of the day, Kristen Tatar averaged 987 at the Champions Cup, but she should still hit the 1,000 rating mark when the new ratings are out, possibly even hitting 1,001. We will see on the second Tuesday of May. And just to be clear about this, I think the PDGA should buy another computer or something. Having PDGA ratings update weekly should be worst case scenario. How can it be that we have to wait a month for new ratings? Someone talk me down on this one. Data is data. Run the calculation and update it already. Kristen is already 1,000 rated, and everybody except her PDGA page knows it. And our final news story of the day, Champions Cup stats from Bangarang on Reddit. There were 7% less players at the Champions Cup this year, 155 down to 144. And there was 3.5% growth in the payout, 140,000 to 145,000. No need to be concerned about any of this, just data points to keep in mind as we go forward. Now let's look into some PDGA growth. Wednesday is PDGA Growth Day. We start with our PDGA top cash earners. Anthony Barella still maintains his lead at $44,000 throughout the year. Gannon Burr is at $34,000, and Nicholas Antala is at $31,000. He caught up quite a bit at the Champions Cup. On the women's side, Kristen Tatar is in the lead with $32,750. Evelina Salonen is closing the gap. She is just shy of $30,000. And Owen Scoggins is also closing the gap. She is at $27,500. Kristen Tatar has the highest average per event, averaging $4,093 per event. At this point in 2023, the top 20 PDGA earners had earned $287,000. At this point in 2024, we're almost at $420,000. That's good enough for a 45% growth rate in top 20 payout. The ratings cash line for the FPO division was $955. That is in fact the highest ratings cash line for the women all season. Maybe the women are improving now that there's so many 1,000 rated rounds. Maybe we can expect that to go up. Actually, since U.S. Women's, it has gone up every single event. That's an interesting thing to look at. On the men's side, however, the ratings cash line was $1015. That was the lowest ratings cash line of the entire season so far. I apologize, I made a mistake. Texas State's was $1014. But still, it's a PDGA major. I would expect that to be the highest. Team cash earnings. At the last event, Discraft edged out Innova with $13,000 to $11,000. Discmania was in third at $7,000. And for the year, the guys are in the same order: Discraft, Innova, Discmania. Discraft is just shy of $100,000. Innova is at $76,000, and Team Discmania has earned $56,000. All right, let's dive into PDGA growth. PDGA approval growth, the number of discs and baskets that have been approved this year as opposed to this far into 2023, 85 this year versus 127 in 2023. We're a third behind. That's all there is to it. We used to be 50% behind, so maybe I had my extrapolation variables done incorrectly, or maybe that'd be interpolation. I'm not sure. Either way, it's going to be exciting to see if 2024 can catch 2023. PDGA event growth, we are running 1% ahead of where we were last year, with 3,053 events so far this year, and at this point last year we were at 3,026. Every 1% matters. As far as event attendance, however, we are down by about 7%, 58 to 54. 58 being last year's average attendance, 54 being this year's. So overall, we have about 6% fewer people have participated in PDGA events so far this year versus last year. And we'll close out with PDGA membership. Our current PDGA number of members is 103,975. I estimate by the end of the year we will have 132,547. More on that in just a second. The current highest PDGA number is 286,372. We've had 10,296 new members. Call it 10,300. We're all friends. And I estimate by the end of the year we will have over 22,000 new PDGA members. Now, I want to touch on that estimated total members because that number's been slipping a little bit over the past maybe month. And the PDGA also they just finished their PDGA renewal program. So where they advertised, hey, renew with the PDGA. So we just finished the PDGA renewal program and we've been slipping relative to how we grew last year. Right now we are 3.25% behind where we were last year at this time. So we've got some work to do. The PDGA's stated goal is to have growth be flat. They've got some work to do to make that happen. That's it for us today. Have fun, throw them straight, and hit the thin gap. And if you have any thoughts, news, or opinions, shoot us an email at discgolfdaily@aol.com.